Hey guys, True Crime Sunshine. I have took a couple of days from YouTube and social media for mental health. Came back and apparently we have a University of Ohio in Moscow, Idaho. Not Ohio. University of Idaho. A brutal murder of 4 students. And this is still an open investigation. So I am going to share what I was able to find on Fox. And the photo that you see here on your screen is from Twitter. I did want to make sure that I did go ahead and share their faces. So what I have today that I want to share with you guys is where the local law enforcement is using drone footage to fly over the home. And guys, this doesn't have any sound to it. It's just footage of the home where they were slain. It just kind of goes through and shows how they're flying a drone. So I did want to share this. Okay, and then I was able to find also by going through the links on that page, I was able to find a kind of a news clip from Fox with a Dr. Michael Baden. He will be explaining in detail the ME report and other information, and I felt it was important to go ahead and bring this as well into this video, so that way we're not using speculation. This is a information from a local news source.
Baden, thank you very much for joining us. Just troubling every aspect of this story, and parents right. Dr. Baden, thank you very much for joining us. Just troubling every aspect of this story, and parents rightly just terrified. The fact that this person is clearly still on the loose, no suspect, and there's a lot of detailing every aspect of this story. And let's bring in Dr. Michael Baden, forensic pathologist and a Fox News contributor. Dr. Baden, thank you very much for joining us. Just troubling every aspect of this story, and parents rightly just terrified. The fact that this person is clearly still on the loose, no suspect, and there's a lot of details to take in. What strikes you right now about this story?
Well, the very fact that's been mentioned, that the other 2 persons in the house were may have been unaware of what was going on, which may mean that perhaps the deaths didn't all occur at the same time, but whoever did it could have been laying in wait. And one of the things that can help determine that is the times of death. And the medical examiner at the scene, using rigor mortis, stiffness of the body, lividity, the settling of blood, the temperature of the body, may be able to tell whether or not the 4 victims were killed at the same time or at different times. The digestion, the contents of the stomach can also tell how long after the last meal each of them died. And perhaps the death may occur when the first couple comes in, laying in wait, and the second couple, to see whether or not anybody was bound or gagged during the time. And of course, we'll tell whether there were any sexual attack, whether there was a struggle. One of the things that's of interest is when there's this many stab wounds and there's a lot of blood is very slippery, and sometimes the perpetrator is cut by the slippage of the knife, and some of the blood at the scene can belong to the perpetrator, and DNA will be able to evaluate that.
Yeah, Doctor, parents, as we said at the top of this, in Dan Springer's fine report, are very frustrated by the lack of answers from law enforcement. I mean, we finally heard from them last night, the first time publicly since the murders occurred over the weekend. Parents are also frustrated as to why police have declared this to be an isolated event. Olivia Gonçalves, who's the sister of one of the victims, Kayla Gonçalves, said, quote, anything can be isolated until it's not. And until we have someone in custody, there is no way with any amount of confidence to say this is isolated. This likely goes more to law enforcement investigation than to forensics. But what do you think about how the police have conducted at least the public side of this investigation so far, including at the very beginning of this, saying that there was no ongoing threat to the public, and then yesterday walking that back?
Well, I think what happens in a situation like this is the police know a great deal more than they're telling the public right now, mostly because they don't want to alert the perpetrator. And I wouldn't just exclude a single person, exclude more than one person. The knife may have been the same weapon, but that doesn't mean there wasn't a second person there to control four people. If all four people are there at the same time, it's very hard for one perpetrator to control all four, not running out, not jumping out the window, not waking up the other two people. One of the things that's also interesting about multiple knife stabbings is that if the knife strikes bone, the tip of the knife might break off in the course of the stabbing. And if that tip of the knife is picked up during the autopsy or by X-ray before the autopsy, that can be like a fingerprint of what the weapon is if weapons are found and they can be matched up with that tip.
This is all obviously very, very difficult for people to hear, just absolutely how horrific this all played out, Dr. Bodden. These are just some of the bulleted points that we got from the coroner on these murders, noting that there was quite a bit of blood inside of the house. And of course, those pictures have been seen. They're extremely graphic. That the scene was described as traumatic. The autopsy, the coroner says, could lead to some evidence of a suspect, and the coroner ruled out this being a case of murder-suicide. But to that third point, that the autopsy could lead to some evidence of a suspect, take us down that road.
Well, raising the issue of even a suicide involved here would be determined in part by where the stab wounds were in the bodies. The coroner, the medical examiner, did the autopsy, knows if there are stab wounds front, back, sideways, neck, whether they are self-inflicted type or homicide type. Now, it sounds here thus far that these are 4 homicides. This is not the suicide-homicide situation that occasionally occurs. And I think that security video and security cameras in the neighborhood may tell a great deal about what's going on. I'm sure the police are taking all of the security videos from the house and any of the neighbors that might include some issues. Who came there? Often they would come by vehicle. Outside, they'd be looking very closely at tire marks. Are there tire mark imprints that don't belong to the people who are at the residence? But one knife, if it is a single knife that matches all 4 bodies, does not necessarily rule out another person who maintained the 3 or 4 people in a condition where they couldn't cry for help and was also present. So that has to be not excluded yet.
Yeah, just to come back to your point about the knife and whether perhaps they've got a clue as to what type of knife it was. Apparently, police, according to local reports, have gone around to a building supply company asking if they sell these so-called K-bar knives. These are the standard issue marine combat knife. You don't have to buy them from a building supply company. I could push add to cart right now because I've got it up online. And buy one for $128. But let me just come back to something else. And you said, was there one person or were there two people to control the people while the murders took place? This all occurred at about 3 o'clock in the morning after the four of this group were out at various parties or going to bars or whatever. You might sleep pretty soundly after a party. Would it be possible, in your estimation, to be able to kill 4 people without anyone else in the house being alerted?
Well, they wouldn't be alert if there was no calls out or cries for help or struggling. And that's why if you had one person with 4 individuals there at the same time, there would be calls out. And that's why maybe one couple came in before the other couple. And they were bound, gagged, or stabbed, and he waited for the other people to come in. Or can't rule out that there was a second person there, another person there to control, and whether or not there was any kind of sexual attack, if one was looking for motives of strangers. But it's odd. It's very odd to have 2 people, unless, as was mentioned earlier, the 2 in the bedroom, 2 in the other apartment were bound and gagged and couldn't get out for 4 hours, which sounds unlikely. Unlikely, but that's also a possibility.
All right, just a lot of details to take in there, and a horrific story, and parents obviously who are demanding answers, and a community that still needs to remain vigilant. Police obviously had to walk back the idea that they would be safe out there in the community when they don't have the suspect. Dr. Bodden, thank you.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you, and hopefully they'll resolve this
soon.
Okay, so this is the other update that I was able to find. This was released 3 hours ago. It is Saturday, November the 19th, 2022. So I want to play this as well.
Gear up for the holidays at Tire Kingdom's Black Friday sale. Shop half at Tire Kingdom.
Let's bring in much of the country clearly shocked and baffled. With us now is Los Angeles County Deputy District Attorney John Hitami. John, it's great to have you on because you look at the totality of all this and it really is kind of stunning. Matt just laid it out for us here. You have these 4 students, right? We know this was an awful crime. There was blood coming out of the house. You attack 4 students with a knife, and there has got to be a lot of DNA evidence from whoever this suspect might be.
My prayers go out to the families of these individuals who were killed. It's horrendous, you know, going to college, sending your daughters and your sons to college, and then all of a sudden something like this happens. However, I have a trust in the police department that they're going to effectively investigate this, and they are going to do everything they can to find who the suspect is and hopefully hold that individual accountable for these crimes.
Yeah, I wonder, because Matt was saying that the 2 college students, both they're young women, Matt, correct? These
Yes.
are young women, and they have now been cleared. They're not, do we know if they're not witnesses? They're not suspects. Do we know if they've been cleared and they're not witnesses in any capacity? Police say they don't believe that they were involved in the homicides, but what we do know, Trace, is that there were 6 adults in this house, and you do have to wonder how a killer got into this home so discreetly and slipped out so discreetly and killed 4 people. Those 2 survivors, you wonder what they heard or might have seen.
And what do you make of that, John? I mean, they had to hear something, right? Unless they were inebriated and they were just passed out, which is a potential thing here, but you would think that somebody heard something. And that's the kind of the baffling thing here.
I think the police are just going to have to keep working and trying to find out exactly what happened in this case. Usually with stabbings, that's a crime of passion. So I think they should be able to narrow it down and try to find out who this person was, and they'll do everything they can to make sure that they hold this person accountable.
I want to put this timeline up on the screen if I can, because we're talking about Saturday, November 12th, 8:57 p.m. The victim posts a picture online of herself and the 3 friends. Sunday, November 13th at 1:41 in the morning. 2 of the victims seen on surveillance video near a food truck, right? And then 3 a.m., police say 4 victims stabbed to death inside the house. At 11:48 in the morning, police receive a 911 call, John and Tommy, for an unconscious individual inside the home. We know it was a gruesome crime. We don't know who called 911. We don't know if it was the 2 women who were inside the house, but who would call in an unconscious victim when you've got blood everywhere?
Right. It doesn't add up at all. So I think that right now, we just have to hope and pray that the police department's able to actually uncover exactly what happened in this case.
Yeah, interesting. Matt, when you talk about did this person call 911, there's no evidence, there's no call released, nothing on that.
No, absolutely nothing released. And the coroner said it's not clear if all the victims were found in separate parts of the home, where they were found in the house. I feel like there's surveillance cameras everywhere nowadays. People have Ring cameras at the front of their doors. It's surprising to me that nearly a week later, we still have not seen a single suspect anywhere on video.
Yeah, I want to move on if I can, John. This is more in your neck of the woods. We're talking about the guy who allegedly mowed down 25 of the sheriff's deputies' recruits. The quoting here, his name is Nicholas Joseph Gutierrez. The quote comes from the sheriff saying, the 22-year-old man accused of mowing down 25 Los Angeles sheriff's recruits with his SUV was provisionally freed on $2 million bond Thursday night because investigators need more time to comb through the mountain of evidence against him. We know this isn't part of just kicking these people out because they didn't commit a bad enough crime. There's something else at play here, but it's still kind of baffling to a lot of people in Los Angeles that all of a sudden this guy who ran down all these people is walking the streets.
And first off, Trace, I do want to say that my prayers also go out to these family members and these cadets, and I do hope that there's a speedy recovery for them. Here's a problem in Los Angeles. No one has any trust in the district attorney. No one has any confidence in the district attorney. And so when he gets these really important cases, no one believes he's going to do the right thing. This is an individual who's never tried one case, never filed one case, never walked into court at one time. And there's 37 cities now have voted no confidence in this individual. So right now we have a district attorney who has no idea what he's doing. No one has any trust in him. And so you have a community that's unclear what's going on in this type of case, where you have 25 cadets mowed down. You have video of this incident. 5 of these cadets were seriously injured, and people have so many questions about what's going on with the investigation in this case.
We switched, Matt, to the Idaho murders from this case, and we still don't know if he was speeding up going toward these deputies, if he put on the brakes. It doesn't appear like he put on the brakes, Matt. Do you know?
I don't know, but the video certainly looks like he would have been able to see that large group of cadets.
And he swayed, right? I mean, John, he swayed over, and we don't know what the cause of that. He said he was sleepy, he had marijuana in the car, no alcohol in his system, but something's amiss here.
And here's the thing, Trace, you can't even jog or run in Los Angeles without being afraid that you're going to be run down and killed. Especially if you're a police officer nowadays, it seems like everywhere you go, people are trying to attack you or hurt you. It's really, really shameful and disgraceful. And we have a DA who doesn't seem to know exactly what he's doing and doesn't understand what his job is, which is to protect the public, which he's failed to do.
Well, our best to those sheriff's recruits, John and Tommy, Matt Finn, thank you both.
Okay, guys, so that was a surprise. I hadn't even heard about that. So apparently we had 25 police cadets that were mowed down in Los Angeles. So bonus on the end of the Idaho murder here. So you guys can check out my community wall. On my community wall, I did share the post from one of the roommates stating that they are not the ones that called 911. And again, this case does not add up. And I've only been following it for about 3 hours at this point. So prayers go out to the family, guys. And, you know, I have to say that we have got to let law enforcement do their jobs. As always, guys, thank you for watching. And remember, if you see something, say something. It takes a village to raise a child. Watch, listen, and speak. Never give up. Be kind to one another. Stop bullying. Stop trying to drag other people down. We're here for the missing, the murdered, and the voiceless. Let's keep it that way, guys.